Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Seal episode number 167 based on novel. So let's start. Li Xin had a start, looking far softer, but still disregarded Lin Xin and asked Long Haochen, just what happened? Long Qianying, you can't be planning to talk out here? Just go in. As he said so, this divine knight stepped inside, leading the group into a conference room in the Night Temple. The others from Bright Glimmer of Hope were all already waiting inside, and had all taken off their cloaks. Right now, Saima's Yarn had a really queer look. Still hugging Linger yet far taller than her, he lifted her up above the ground all along their walk on the way there. Entering the meeting room, everyone couldn't help but reveal sniggering faces. Linger became bashful. What are you waiting for to let go of me? Saima's Yarn resolutely replied, I'm not letting you go. Isn't it just the others sneering? What if you run off after I let go of you? I'll have no more wife. Saying this guy took a chair and sat on it, placing Linger on his knee, but not letting go of her no matter what she'd say. Given his cultivation, Linger couldn't possibly struggle out no matter how she tried. Little imagined was that Linger actually really liked that wild type the most. Although bashful, she didn't resist, and buried her head on his thick shoulder, not daring to raise it. Long Haochen invited Long Qianying to sit on the main seat, then sat right across from Long Qianying, Sis, Miss Wei Yang, and Miss Linger. On behalf of the Demon Hunt Squad Bright Glimmer of Hope, I would like to apologize about the matter of us having gone missing. Just as I said, everything is my own fault. Right now, Linger and Li Xin were extremely stirred emotionally, so only Yi Wei Yang was rather stable in the emotional aspect. Looking at Long Haochen, Captain Long, I would be very curious to listen about the encounters you wound up having in demon territory, for you to have not returned for such a long time, and furthermore not even sent the slightest news. Looking at Kia on his side, Long Haochen unconsciously grabbed her small hand from below the table. Even if a long time had already passed since then, right now he still felt a deep lingering fear, not a fear of death, but a fear of losing Kia. At that time, he was just a bit close to losing Kia forever. We got caught in a trap of the Demon God Emperor. Thus did Long Haochen start speaking about how they saved Yang Wenjiao from the Dragon River Demon God Asmodeus, and how he got informed of the Demon God Emperor's plan of surrounding them, as well as how the Demon God Emperor's trap went step by step and in detail. At the time he mentioned his own heart being pierced by the Demon God Emperor's attack, Li Xin and Yi Wei Yang both couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Even Linger raised her head in shock from Saima's Yarn's embrace. They were surprisingly caught by the Demon God Emperor, Moon Demon God, and Star Demon God altogether. Although Long Haochen's description was quite stern, the three girls having come across demons many times already, they could naturally imagine what kind of situation it was to be surrounded by the three greatest demon powerhouses in the midst of Modu Core City. Although I don't know why the Demon God Emperor was willing to spare my comrades at the cost of my life, I knew at that time that my death was already settled. The Demon God Emperor abode by his promise, letting my comrades get away from Modu while carrying my corpse. And in those years, we found out some remnants with great inheritance from ancient times deep inside. If we could get this inheritance, the hope of resurrecting me may appear, so everyone came across countless dangers for the sake of resurrecting me. After experiencing countless near-death experiences, they finally gained that inheritance, enabling the reconstruction of my heart, which is why I am standing in front of you right now. That power from ancient times left a massive power that we collectively went to absorb, as we trained in these remnants. But no one imagined that this seclusion would actually be a deep meditation of over 4 years. Us awaking was a matter of half a year ago. During these 4 years of deep meditations, we obtained a lot, and actually, we didn't really know how much time had passed since then, actually believing it to be just a few days. Everyone made immense qualitative progress in deep meditation, and made many advances in understanding. Never had we encountered such a crisis in this lifetime, so, in the following time, we kept training and raising our understanding and cultivation all along. This is why we managed to achieve such results in today's temple's great gathering. At the time we just came back, Lin Xin and Saima wanted to immediately look for you, but I was the one to stop them. You should also know that this temple's great gathering is special and will very possibly be a turning point for the Alliance. There are some things we want from this gathering in the hopes of making the Alliance even more powerful in the future. So before it started, I made them endure patiently. The fault is mine, so I hope you could forgive them. Also, I want to thank you on behalf of our Demon Hunt Squad, Bright Glimmer of Hope, for having waited for them. It is surely the greatest bliss of their life for them to have found lovers such as you. Saying that, Long Houchen stood once again and respectfully bowed to the three girls. Although Long Houchen's story was counted as of nothing special, but three girls felt very exhausted just from listening, finding it to be quite thrilling. They were really very close to not having made it back. By this time, given Fong Linger's delicate character, she had already no more fury filling her. Holding Sima Xian's hand, she had a very warm gaze, only thinking, the most important is that you're back. Li Xin's face was also greatly eased, and Lin Xin immediately tried to take advantage of that and sat beside her. Yi Wei-yang stood up and nodded to Long Houchen. I feel very lucky about having gotten to listen to the experience Captain Long and the others went through. You are heroes for the Alliance. It looks like Linger is not willing to follow me out and you should have more matters to discuss, so I am leaving first, goodbye. Long Houchen had a sudden thought and told Han Yu, please send off Miss Wei-yang. Yes. Han Yu accepted and invited Yi Wei-yang to the exit, showing the way for her to go. Long Houchen asked Fong Linger, Miss Linger, can you please answer a question for me? Fong Linger nodded. Right now, Sima Xian saw that she couldn't run off anymore, which is why he placed her on the adjacent seat. Still, his hand was drawn toward her waist, though this bald priest didn't have any more of his previous aggressiveness, with just a happy smirk left on his face. Long Houchen asked, does Miss Wei-yang happen to have already a lover? Fong Linger was startled, what's that about? Don't you already have her? She pointed at Kia. Kia laughed in response, he's not asking for his own sake, but for Han Yu, who just sent off Miss Wei-yang back here. Speaking of which, the only single person left in the Demon Hunt Squad bright glimmer of hope was Han Yu. Even Duan Yi, who was temporarily added to their team, had a childhood sweetheart as his wife. Before they went missing, Duan Yi was already married to her. Only, his wife was just a commoner and not a practitioner. This time, Duan Yi specially went to visit his wife and report his well-being before they returned to the Holy City. As the captain, Long Houchen was of course concerned with the members' important issues. Han Yu had a steady character, be it in behavior and appearance or ability, all of which were top-notch. However, as a demon hunter, he never had the opportunity to discover those feelings. Now that they reached the 9th step of cultivation, their abilities of self-preservation in the battlefield were greatly enhanced, so Long Houchen naturally became concerned with finding a close female friend for him. The group came into contact with Yi Wei-yang several times already. This girl was not only beautiful, but also very capable. The Alliance's great auction house was neatly managed in her hands, while Fong Linger only had some important decisions to handle. More importantly, Yi Wei-yang was the successor of the holy sword wielder Yi Wuxian. All of this added up would naturally make it a very good thing if they could act as a matchmaker for Han Yu. Hearing Kia say this much, Fong Linger's eyes immediately lit. Big Sis Wei-yang has a very great foresight, and remained unmarried for so long. I just don't know whether that knight from your ranks will be able to move her heart. Long Houchen smiled at her, then please help us pull strings. I can see that Miss Wei-yang and you are very close. If she also can become one of the family member for our bright glimmer of hope, won't the two of you become even more intimately related? Let me give you a little leak. After this temple's great gathering terminates, we will immediately proceed for the Night's Sacred Mountain, where, given Han Yu's strength, he will very possibly be able to obtain a Divine Throne's approval. I think that a Divine Knight should be a good match for Miss Wei-yang, right? Fong Linger's eyes flashed in understanding. It surely is a good match. But Captain Long, you may be planning on invading our Alliance's great auction house. Or do you have some other goals? Long Houchen replied with a faint smile, I will let Sima explain everything to you secretly. Of course, we hope to obtain the backing of your Alliance's great auction house, but I believe that this will only bring benefit to the future of the auction house. Although Long Jianying was seated on the main seat, he did not speak a word from beginning to end, only looking at his grandson. Returning after over 4 years, Long Houchen not only looked more calm and reserved than in the past, but had gained an indescribably great presence. Looking at his warmth, he gave off the feeling of being in the right when discussing. This was really a kind of extraordinary trait, a king's bearing. When dawn came once again, the second day of the temple's great gathering opened its curtains. The contestants eliminated in the previous days were all sent to the spectator lounge. Only the contestants that made it to the second round remained in the competition area. For the sake of simplifying their entrance to the venue, the group of Bright Glimmer of Hope sat directly across the space allocated to the Night Temple, but this action also caused the expression of the Mage Temple's head Li Xingxi to look very much unsightly. Today, a total of 95 people were assembled, gathered for random individual battles. After all, luck would always be a part of one's strength. After that round of drawing, 48 contestants would pass through the third stage, resulting in a continuation of the knockout competition until a top 3 was established. The top 3 will be offered 2 choices, either to end normally and just keep all their previous total points, or to keep undergoing battles, where the final winners would get rewarded with an extra 10 total points. Out of a total of 3 battles, if someone manages to win against the other 2 and end up number 1, this one would get an extra 20 points. The competition restarted, and the first appearance of the Light of Selection picked a member of Bright Glimmer of Hope right off the bat. Today, they had all removed their cloaks, and the one the Light of Selection had picked was actually Kia. The other one to be selected was quite coincidentally from the nearby Assassin Temple, the Elder Chief of the Assassin Temple, wielder of the 12 Spaces domain, Shui Zhisheng. Kia's face of absolute beauty immediately got strange. A short time ago, she had just won a battle against this Shui Zhisheng, and although she didn't achieve final victory, her domain ability Flourishing Lotus Flower caused Shui Zhisheng to concede. Who would have thought that she would once again have to face this elder chief of her temple? In a flash of her figure, she entered the stadium, but without giving Cai the time to prepare her moves, Shui Zhisheng on the other side did not even enter the stadium, his aged voice immediately heard reverberating through the whole stadium. "I concede." These words raised an uproar among all spectators. Shui Zhisheng was a veteran of the Assassin Temple, the current #1 expert in their temple. Although his seniority was not on the terrifying level of the legendary Chen Zidian, he was even a generation higher than the temple head Xing Yu. What had just happened for him to cower without even giving a fight? Li Jingxi finally couldn't bear it anymore. "Chief Referee, this is the temple's great gathering, not a child's play. Auxiliary Temple head San Shui just conceded yesterday, and today it's Shui Zhisheng from the Assassin Temple, all of whom are peak powerhouses of their own temple. What's the meaning of our temple's great gathering if such situations keep occurring in the rest of the competition?" On the Night Temple's lounge, Chen Zidian's voice spread, "Please give your reasons, auxiliary heads. San Shui, Elder Shui, I need a reason for your choices of conceding." San Shui Popo, having a fearless character, let out a cold snort and declared to Li Jingxi, "Temple head Li, you are too meddlesome. I had only one reason for conceding, and it's that I'm no match for Chen Ying'er. She's my grandson, so we have already had matches before. That's all." Shui Zhisheng declared indifferently, "My situation is the same as San Shui. Not long ago, I have sparred with Miss Cai and lost. As I don't want to get dishonored once again, I chose to concede." Chief Referee, will such reasons do? For the powerhouses of the present age, face is frequently even more important than their lives. For San Shui Popo and Shui Zhisheng to declare that they were not matches for Chen Ying'er and Cai immediately raised another uproar. The already highly valued the Demon Hunt Squad Bright Glimmer of Hope once again rose winds and waves. San Shui Popo was one thing as, after all, she had only just recently broken through the 9th step, but Shui Zhisheng was the #1 powerhouse in the Assassin Temple, wielder of the 12 Spaces domain. For him to declare being no match for a member of this Demon Hunt Squad immediately placed its position to an unprecedented level. Li Jingxi's face looked feverish, but he didn't have anything good to respond to that, his unspoken grievance still unsettled. Chen Zidian declared, "Since things are like that, let the competition follow its course. If there are some other acts of conceding in the following course of the battles, you must speak out the reasons immediately from now on, or some points will be deducted from your own temple's total." Shockingly, the Light of Selection once again lit a member of Bright Glimmer of Hope, being this time Wang Yuan. The other side selected by the Light was Tan Wan, who had barely won yesterday. Tan Wan was after all very young, so her cultivation was definitely among the last of the competitors from the Mage Temple. On the previous day, it was by relying on some extraordinary magic taught by Li Jingxi that she defeated her opponent with difficulty, making it to the second round. Wang Yuan was clad in white attire, her short hair flourishing with heroic spirit. Her slender figure and great beauty were immediately noticed as she entered the stadium. If one were to look carefully, they would discover that Wang Yuan's eyes were clearly different from before, her pupils now being purple-colored. Facing the clearly even younger Wang Yuan, Tan Wan had a stubborn look. How can they all have such transcending abilities for their ages? I must defeat her at any cost. Clad in a green gown, Tan Wan's spiritual wings immediately spread out and flapped up, rising straight to the air. She made a turn in midair, causing countless tiny wind blades to get released. Her sharp incantation resounded like a torrential storm, causing green light to shine upon half of the stadium. Fantastic changes started to take place on the tiny green blades of light, revolving around Tan Wang's body, and getting faster and faster, with even more green light coming off at lightning speed from Tan Wan's body. Wang Yuanyuan also moved. She did not release her spiritual wings, but went for Tan Wan in large strides. Her pink eyes gradually deepened to suddenly turn into a dark red color, giving off a strange and oppressive sight. Spurts of blood seemed to frequently come from her eyes. The Alliance's great stadium being so wide, Wang Yuanyuan would need at least half a minute to get to Tan Wan's range. But she wasn't hurried in the slightest, appearing to let Tan Wan display the best of her magic. On the Mage Temple's side, Li Xingqi's look became even more unsightly. Although Wang Yuanyuan had yet to make a move, from her performance in the battle of the previous day, Li Xingqi knew that she was a powerhouse of the 9th step. Wang Yuanyuan's previous opponent was a knight, and the two parties crossed hands for not even 2 minutes before that knight got defeated by Wang Yuanyuan's powerful spatial powers. And, at that time, Wang Yuanyuan had immediately launched an attack right from the start, totally unlike today. Her current doing was visibly to make a show for the Mage Temple to see. If you reach the 9th step. My personally created magic is something even someone at the 9th step may not necessarily win against, when launched at full power. The look in Li Xingqi's eyes flickered, unconsciously facing Long Haochen seated in the middle of the Night Temple's area. Long Haochen was clearly very calm, sitting upright yet releasing a very warm manner, just like any other more normal young man. But Li Xingqi felt deeply that such a young man was affecting his plans to an enormous degree. Tan Wan's chant started to get more and more high-pitched. These chanting patterns were quite rare, because, during magic incantation, no mistake in tone was allowed, thus limiting one's chanting speed. So a rapid chant such as hers would very possibly result in failed magic. Her current chant also seemed quite different from ordinary spells. This incantation was personally created by Li Xingqi. Being the most outstanding genius the Mage Temple had in 1,000 years, Li Xingqi combined some ancient incantation with personal comprehension to create an extraordinary magic spell chant. Back in the days, the reason why he took Tan Wan as a disciple was that Tan Wan could comprehend this incantation. Those small wind blades surrounding Tan Wan immediately turned green, entirely masking her body and making it look unclear. The wind blades stopped increasing after reaching a certain number, but became more and more brightly colored. One could faintly see green electric light coil around those wind blades, as Tan Wan's incantation accelerated to its peak. Right when Wang Yuanyuan was at 50 meters from Tan Wan, she issued a reverberating shriek, and immediately, those green wind blades surrounding her in buzzing sounds immediately transformed into a whirlpool of 3 meters diameter and 5 meters length, rushing straight to Wang Yuanyuan's location. All could tell that they were in no way ordinary whirlpools. Each of the small wind blades forming them was infused with the might of spiritual highland. After chanting this incantation, Tan Wan dropped from the sky, looking pale, and, her body swelling, nearly fell to the ground. From this could be seen that this previous magic had just depleted nearly all her spiritual energy. Tan Wan did not even expect herself to actually be able to complete this spell. The greatest feature of this spell was to combine both offense and defense. If the enemy were to attack in the midst of her chant, the first of the wind blades would protect her automatically by attacking the enemies, while her chant would keep going on as long as the enemy does not pass through the magic. This spell already reached the forbidden spell grade. For Tan Wan to actually manage to use such a wind elemental forbidden spell without the boost of any attached equipment was more than prideful enough. Li Xingqi gave this magic a really domineering name, calling it Dark Green Hade Spring. It was full of destructive power against both single and multiple targets. From Tan Wan's spell came out Li Xingqi's ferociousness. Mags of the same grade would hardly be able to utilize such terrifying magic. Facing Dark Green Hade Spring, Wang Yuanyuan stopped her advance, making an incomprehensible move by raising her right hand and putting her forefinger, middle finger, and ring finger in contact with the space between her eyebrows. As she shut both her eyes, the forbidden spell Green Hade Spring about to arrive in front of Wang Yuanyuan produced a massive attraction, and pulling Wang Yuanyuan to its direction. Wang Yuanyuan seemed as though she didn't even see that forbidden spell, still standing motionless, with her 3 fingers at the same position. Tan Wan's look changed, because she understood clearly the might of this forbidden spell. More importantly, it could only be released and not retrieved, as her cultivation was far from sufficient to achieve such control. In case Wang Yuanyuan really died in front of her forbidden spell, that would not only incur an unredeemable grudge between the Mage Temple and Bright Glimmer of Hope, but also make her a criminal. After all, the Mage Temple and Bright Glimmer of Hope were no more than competitors, with everyone having a mutual enemy in demonkind. Neither did she have any thoughts of killing someone from Bright Glimmer of Hope, but because their displays of power were too overbearing, she had to liberate her greatest magic right at the start. But now that dark green Hades wall had already engulfed Wang Yuan, it was already too late to have second thoughts. Suddenly, an intense bloody red fog abruptly came off Wang Yuan as its center and dispersed, instantly sweeping her body along, and spreading outwards at a frightening speed, clashing against the dark green Hades spring. Dark green Hades spring was dark green colored, and this bloody red bright fog was scarlet colored, forming two opposite forces. A shocking scene occurred. That bloody red fog pushed it back, but that was still a perilous situation. An intense blood reek filled the air instantly, as a red light forcibly enveloped the dark green Hades spring. A terrible murderous spirit surged out and filled the air as a red glow suddenly bubbled forth. That dark red radiance was fully buried in the midst of the surges of blood, and one could only see the blood fog rush out and expand, filling the whole stadium with the color of blood in just a little while. Li Xingxi's face froze. A domain, that was clearly the power of a domain. So, how many more other than Long Haochen actually wielded domains in this bright glimmer of hope? If what Shui Jisheng said before was for real, that Saint Daughter of Samsara was bound to wield a domain too. That already made a total of 3 domains. Even the temples had only 3 domain wielders each, no more. For the Demon Hunt Squad Bright to have such strength, they were already drawing near a legendary Demon Hunt Squad like the Demon God Slayers. And they were yet so young. Right, this expanse of blood red was Wang Yuan's domain, that she named Blood Domain. In terms of innate talent, Wang Yuan was surely the least in the Demon Hunt Squad Bright Glimmer of Hope, but her willpower and determination matched even Long Haochen and Caio, and in some fields she was even more perseverant. Precisely because of her lack of innate talent to match her comrades, Wang Yuan invested even more effort. She was the one to invest herself the most of the team in the 2 years of Holy War, and also the one to slaughter the most. She forced her way through this road of slaughter to find her own style. In the Tower of Eternity, when her 7 spatial crystals summoned the true might of the Divine Soul Shield, the ebullition of her blood vessels caused that blood-reeking slaughter aura to integrate her body, fixing the basis of her understanding of the blood domain. After 4 years of deep meditation, Wang Yuan gained deep foundations, not only breaking through the 9th step, but also becoming the 4th domain wielder of the group after Long Haochen, Kia, and Chen Yinge, surpassing Sima Xian, Lin Xin, Han Yu and Zhong Fangfang's attainments to become the 4th strongest powerhouse of the team. In front of Tan Wan, she had no need for her domain's power at all, but Long Haochen told his team before the competition that this temple's great gathering was a time to display their strength. So, they absolutely had to show all higher-ups of the Temple Alliance their powerfulness, so that their plans could keep getting carried out. Therefore, Wang Yuan chose to display the use of her domain right after seeing that the opponent was someone from the Mage Temple. Dark green Hell Spring was certainly powerful, but if Li Xingxi were to make use of it in combination with his domain, Wang Yuan would surely not be able to block it by the sheer use of her domain. But, after all, Tan Wan reached only the 8th step, so her control over the forbidden spell was really insufficient. In the end, it disappeared, submerged in the midst of that domain of Blue 30 slaughter, turning into nothingness. As the bloodlight vanished, Wang Yuan didn't even glance at Tan Wan, and turned back to leave the field. Her domain having come out, the outcome was already fixed. The temple's great gathering became once again submerged in silence by bright glimmer of hope. Everyone there witnessed that the strength of all their members truly was befitting the strength of a titled Demon Hunt Squad. The second round continued without the half with the lower cultivation. In this second round, over 3/4 of the contestants were powerhouses of the 9th step. But even so, at the time the second round ended, Bright Glimmer of Hope achieved the proud result of 9 victories, with only Du and Yi losing at Sheng Yu's hands. After the second round terminated, some changes happened in the proportions. The Night Temple's dominance was globally a bit fainter. The Night Temple had only 11 people left by the third round, having gotten 13 of their members eliminated. The Mage Temple had 10, Bright Glimmer of Hope had 9, the Spiritual Temple had 7, the Assassin Temple had 6, and the Warrior Temple only had 5 left. Changes happened regarding the accumulations of points as well. After the victors of the second round all gained 2 points, added up to the first round's total points, the Night Temple was still number 1 with 46 points, the Mage Temple being second with 41 points, the Spiritual Temple was third with 30 points, Bright Glimmer of Hope fourth with 28 points, the Assassin Temple fifth with 26, and finally came the Warrior Temple with 20 points. For the 10 members of Bright Glimmer of Hope to achieve the 4th rank by the end of the second rounds proved their power plentifully. Moreover, the accomplishments in cultivation on the side of Long Haochen's group would clearly make them shine even further on in the later stages, so the individual counts were still pretty hard to predict. The second rounds were over by noon, but the third rounds would start immediately, without the slightest time allocated for rest. The previous 2 rounds of individual battle were mostly competing for the temple's strength as a whole, but from the third round onwards, the individual capabilities of their powerhouses would be accounted. Upon victory, everyone would get at least 4 points in total. A total of 24 battles would be undergone in the third round, involving 48 people, and resulting in earth-shattering battles. The first 2 lights of selections picked the leaders of the Mage Temple and Night Temple, Li Xingxi and Long Qianying. But to the great shock of the public, this battle only lasted for an extraordinarily short time, merely 5 minutes. Li Xingxi made use of his powerful Wind God domain and formidable magic power to defeat Long Qianying, making a mighty display of power on the Mage Temple's side. Watching this battle, Long Haochen was also shocked, because, despite knowing that his grandfather would certainly be no match for Li Xingxi, he didn't think he would lose so fast. Li Xingxi's control over light essence reached an abnormal level, and furthermore, Long Qianying was a divine knight without the boost from his divine throne, which reduced his strength by over half. Otherwise, maybe he could have put up a fight. The chief of the Night Temple getting defeated by the third round was something that had not happened for the past several hundred years. Long Qianying showed a terribly unsightly face, but had no choice but to accept this as a matter of fact. Li Xingxi's power was admirable since the first round. To have made it through the third round, only true elites of the 5 temples were left, so the competition turned to a white-hot level. Although Yang Wenjiao had achieved victory on the second round, he had given all he had by relying on his Starlight Unicorn's domain boost to barely defeat a warrior of the 9th step. But on the third round, his strength still being far from recovered, he became the second eliminated member of Bright Glimmer of Hope. With Yang Wenjiao's elimination, a great display of individual power on the side of Bright Glimmer of Hope started. In the 5th match, Chen Yinga had as her opponent the auxiliary head of the Mage Temple, Lin Xin's grandfather, Lin Chen. On the previous day, Lin Xin had already gone to see Lin Chen, but they didn't discuss for too long before Lin Chen rushed back, not even telling Lin Xin much, apart from admonishing him to take good care of Li Xin. When Lin Xin talked about that with Long Haochen, the latter understood that Lin Chen's attitude was due to the sensitive position of the Mage Temple in this temple's great gathering. As an auxiliary head of the Mage Temple, he was not allowed to tell too much to his grandson, who was part of Bright Glimmer of Hope. Right now, he didn't expect to have to face Chen Yinga in the competition. Lin Chen obviously wouldn't concede simply on account of her relationship with his grandson. With Li Xingxi and the powerhouses from the Mage Temple watching from behind, he had to give his all. "Grandpa Lin, no need to hold back against me." Chen Yinga saluted Lin Chen with a natural smile on her face. Lin Chen only bowed slightly to her, and didn't say much, immediately creating an orange fireball atop his head with a wave of his right hand. Lin Chen, being a fire mage, although he didn't have the same exceptional heart of fire as his grandson, had the #1 attainments in fire magic in the whole Mage Temple. He had been unable to break through the 9th step for reasons of innate talent, but in terms of researches on fire magic, Lin Chen put efforts throughout his whole life, his son and daughter-in-law having even deceased in the midst of this path. An orange fireball floated out like an ardent sun, illuminating Lin Chen under its orange color. His downcast chant was almost inaudible, and an intense orange flame was shot from the orange fireball atop of his head to Chen Yinga's direction. In the candidates area of the spiritual temple, Chen Hongyu stood up straight, looking ardently at the field and cursing silently. "This crappy old Lin Chen is truly fierce. To actually use up Sacred Sun Curse right off the bat." Sacred Sun Curse was Lin Chen's powerful personally created magic. A lot of powerhouses would find it hard to raise their cultivation further after reaching bottlenecks. Unless they had fabulous encounters, even making breakthroughs past a certain point would hardly happen in their whole lifetime. In such circumstances, they would frequently put efforts into developing self-created abilities for the sake of seeking an even greater strength. A mage was particularly fitted to that, because different combinations of a single element would produce different degrees of might depending on a lot of variables. Lin Chen was excellent in this field. He didn't think that he would achieve some breakthroughs due to several near-death experiences in the Holy War, before which he had already been struggling on the peak of the 8th step for nearly 40 years. In those past 40 years, his main object of research was this Sacred Sun Curse. With his strength having risen to the 9th step, this auxiliary head of the Mage Temple wasn't to be underestimated for having no domain of his own. The great might he could unleash through Sacred Sun Curse caused his strength to shoot up, making him one of the best powerhouses in the Mage Temple. Sacred Sun Curse integrated some of his male energy to form a fire. Back in the day, it was in the research and training of Sacred Sun Curse that his father lost his life in an accident, igniting his fire of life beyond his own control, causing the tragic death of a married couple caught in the magical backlash. Lin Xin having an innate hatred toward this sacred sun curse, how could he ever agree to learn it? It even caused him to refuse learning any offensive magic. Although he decided to train in offensive magic for Li Xin's sake afterwards, he still rejected Sacred Sun Curse, making Lin Chen the only wielder of Sacred Sun Curse reaching top-level attainments in that field. The orange flames flew outwards, causing massive twists to the air, rippling all around, and causing the temperature in the stadium to shoot up abruptly, as well as causing the multicolored light in the barrier to rise violently. Chen Ying's look changed greatly, as she didn't expect Lin Chen to launch such a rapid magic offense, producing such a great might. A little transparent pig hopped from Chen Ying's chest, McDull. Compared to the past, there were quite significant changes in his strength. His volume remained the same, as if unable to ever grow further, but his skin had become as sparkling as a crystal, and his pair of small eyes shone bright like diamonds. As his body leapt up, a series of sparkling streams of air glowed behind his back. Rising in the air, McDull's four limbs made an extending motion and caused a miraculous scene. That small and cute pig enlarged abruptly in the next instant, turning into a gigantic black dragon, spitting a deep black breath at Lin Chen's sacred sun curse. This, a devil dragon. McDull's transformation shocked all the powerhouses from the 6 great temples. Devil dragons were the demon god emperor's kin, so how could a summoner have such a summoned beast? And moreover, such summoning speed could only mean that it was a contracted beast. Two powerful forces of black and orange color clashed violently, immediately causing the two users to get repelled backwards just from the terrible fluctuations of spiritual energy. Chen Ying lifted up both her hands, as her clear incantation reverberated in the air. The breath of the devil dragon suffered slight losses against Sacred Sun Curse, but still managed to resist. McDull's massive wings flapped strongly, as he threw himself fiercely at Lin Chen. Lin Chen was also shocked at the sight of a devil dragon, but his fighting experience being plentiful, he didn't cower in shock. Pointing a finger of his right hand, the sacred sun's radiance atop his head enlarged greatly, abruptly releasing an orange halation which clashed with the incoming McDull. The devil dragon's massive figure was unexpectedly pushed away under these orange halations effects. To1's shock, with Lin Chen's muffled cast, an orange dragon head came out from the sacred sun, spitting a gold-red fire at the devil dragon. This gold-red flame only had the thickness of a human hand, contracting greatly from the huge orange dragon head from which it came out. However, upon release it caused the temperature in the whole stadium to soar up instantly, filling the air in the area inside the barrier with river-like ripples as even the ground boiled like magma. From this could be seen the glowing extent of the gold-red flames. McDull visibly hesitated in front of a fire of this level, his massive figure coming to a standstill in midair. A dark purple radiance kept seeping out from his thick scales, gathering swiftly to the top of his head to form a dark red bead to block the dark red fire. Sacred Sun Curse. _bang. In midair, the dark purple bead McDull released broke down instantly, as the gold-red flames passed through. But, the ruptured bead also dispersed powerful dark purple waves, isolating it from the high temperature. Li Chen's body dazzled slightly as his chanting speed became visibly quite slower. But McDull, who had to confront the dark red flames alone, smashed far away, his body continuously dispersing a dark purple radiance to dissolve the gold-red flames. Seeing this scene, Long Haochen was shocked and couldn't help but glance over in Lin Xin's direction. The devil dragon McDull transformed into was surely not a genuine devil dragon, but had some of its basic abilities, being a true powerhouse of the 9th step. But in front of Lin Chen, he had already lost all fighting abilities in a short span of time. This was by no way a strength that a junior mage of the 9th step should possess. Lin Xin showed a bitter smile. Sacred Sun Curse is the crystallization of the research made throughout all Grandpa's life. Although it is not a domain, it can to some extent match a domain, combining 3 fires at once to unleash a fire mage smite to the greatest extent. Long Haochen nodded. Looks like this battle will be quite a trial for Yinga. In a battle between a summoner and a mage, the contest should be based on the party's cultivations and casting speed. But Lin Chen relied on his incantation method Saint Yang to not only make his chanting speed very fast, but also greatly boost his magic power. That golden fire even exceeded Long Haochen's heart of fire in temperature. In innate talent and luck, Lin Xin by far surpassed his grandfather, but there was still quite a gap in their knowledge on fire. Inside the stadium, after Lin Chen released his golden red flames, his offense got slightly slower, but the distant Chen Ying already completed her first summoning magic. A white hexagram appeared on her body, and a long dragon cry reverberated immediately, as out came a dragon over 10 meters long. In volume, this ice dragon was below the devil dragon McDull transformed into, as it looked like a juvenile dragon. But it wasn't any earth dragon or sub-dragon, but a true dragon from Shungmor Dalu. All summoners from the spiritual temple seeing this scene all felt great degrees of excitement. To summon a gigantic dragon was the greatest glory for a summoner, even if it was a juvenile dragon. Summoners generally had two categories of summoning magic. One kind was the summoning of living creatures from other planes, which would either die or return to their plane after the battle. Then a future summon would basically never call an already summoned magical beast. Then another kind was a summon by kind. After concluding a pact, a summoner could absolutely not let the summoned beast die lightly, because that beast would grow in strength alongside its summoner. Although their degrees of intimacy couldn't match contracted beasts, these pact beasts could be called part of the summoner's strength. A basis of the difference in strength between summoners was their numbers of pact beasts. So the death of a pact beast would be a considerable blow to the summoner. Generally, summoners could get a pact beast at every supplementary step of cultivation. Although they weren't summons requiring no chanting time like contracted beasts, they were quite faster to summon than ordinary summons of the same grade. From Chen Yinger's previous incantation duration, summoners all understood that this juvenile ice dragon was actually a pact beast. What they didn't know was that this ice dragon was the first beast which had concluded a pact with Chen Yinger. Since she was not able to use any summoning magic before reaching the 7th step, she had to bear without making any beast contracts. After reaching the 7th step, she always remained in the spiritual temple, where she achieved her awakening as the Saint Spiritual Girl. Then, when following Long Houchen back into Deep Demon territory, her strength kept rising, but she didn't have any contract from beginning to end. When they departed from the Tower of Eternity, Chen Yinger's cultivation had already attained the 9th step, so she found this juvenile ice dragon thanks to her special connections as the Saint Spiritual Girl, and concluded her first pact. And this was, right now, the first time for this ice dragon to fight for Chen Yinger. Actually, Chen Yinger had already suffered quite a loss against Lin Chen, having not summoned an ice dragon first, but her own self created 6 earth dragons able to release the elemental cage. From her view, McDowell's transformation into Devil Dragon would at least resist in front of Lin Chen's attacks for a certain time, making Lin Chen's loss inevitable in front of her elemental cage. This video will end here.